Fanboy Modeling School.
What's going on, my brother?
Welcome to Fanboy Modeling School. How are you, my friend?
You keep what you kill, Mantis, and as per usual, I feel like I was always the sickly one when we were growing up, like the toughest for sure, but also the sickest. If I was a supervillain, my hit point on sick damage would be negative 2,600. Like you could instantly take me out, and so your boy wasn't feeling that great last night during I guess we can agree on that, which was a great episode. Always a pleasure to talk to DaVinci and the scream at the internet. Took a COVID test after the show because I was coughing like a madman, and it came back positive. So I went out and did the responsible thing, took an actual test at my local medical, and that came back positive about 5 hours ago. Then I got the ominous letter from New York State Health. They send you like kind of like a threat letter.
Basically, they're sending the Gestapo to take you away.
yes. So I'm good. I'm not sure. I can kind of hear it in my voice. I've been coughing a lot, little chest stuff going on here, but
so they could theoretically just kick in the door at any moment.
Yeah, they
take you away
right there.
Leave the show. You're taken away.
Pubs, Laney, what's going on? Pubs says, I'm okay, Laney. Sick, but okay. How are you? I'm good. I am good, man. We got some crazy stuff brewing over at the Hold Up TV network, and even more crazy stuff brewing over in the Mantis universe. Shout out to Mantis for the great reviews I've been watching today.
Thank you. I've got more on the way. I'm on a roll right now.
Yeah,
I'm on fire.
I enjoyed it. I was rewatching the Star Trek review. It's the only reason I'm going to watch the show, to be honest with you.
You need to check it out. The new one is really good. The last two shows they came out with, the Picard and Discovery, have just been piss poor. They've just been a piece of garbage. Flaming hot fire garbage.
Flaming hot garbage.
But the new one, they decided, they promised the fans, they were like, we know you're complaining, we're going to make a show that like you're into.
Right.
And it's more like the older one, and it's what's up.
No, yeah, I got some background I need to ask you on that, but how are you, my friend? How are you doing?
I'm actually doing amazing. I feel amazing. I feel like I could take on the whole empire, to quote.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Shout out Bex, hashtag fangirls for fanboys. Yes. You know what, Bex, you should start I believe in Facebook because I like the Facebook groups better than any other
group. Man alert.
Man, I like to pay my prunes looking
get on the Facebook.
Back when Ronald Reagan ran the country.
Yeah, he's just posting all these pictures of his kids, and he's like, check out my kid is in karate. Like no one, like anyone wants to see that.
I mostly post pictures of your cats.
Oh, well, my cats are gorgeous.
When I steal them and I take them to my house. What's up, Carmen? How are you, my sister?
Carmen, welcome in. Bex, Laney. All this love we're getting over here.
I was saying, Bex, you should start like a Facebook group, like fangirls for fanboys, and it can be like a dating service. In fact, Bex, that's pretty much the name of your Spoon podcast.
What are you talking about?
Fangirls for fanboys.
It should be the official Fanboy Modeling School fan club. What are you talking about?
What are you on about, you chauvinist? You can't control Bex's mind.
Speaking of chauviny, that's a word. Tonight, we're going to have many topics, but the first one we really got to get into is Kevin Samuels.
Yes.
So, you did an amazing show the other night, last night, in fact, with DaVinci. There was a lot of conversation about, Kevin Samuels and his importance, and whether he was a grifter or whether he was a great man or maybe just a regular man. It was an interesting conversation to hear two extreme differences going at it. And so I think that's definitely a topic we are going to have to land on tonight.
Yes.
Because, basically the theme of tonight's episode is what the hell is going on with America?
Yeah, what's going on in the world, man?
And I think we're in a dangerous place, man. I think we've hit a dangerous place.
We've been in a dangerous place, but danger is my cousin Jeffro's middle name.
Whoever
Cheers.
that is to Jeffrey.
I don't have a cousin Jeffro, and if I did, Bex, I wouldn't speak to him. If he showed up on some country bumpkin stuff,
Because you'd be like, he's a Trump supporter because of his name. But what I'm saying is, I think we've reached this point, and I'm sorry to start it off so heavy, but at least we're not starting with the Supreme Court. So there you go. I'm doing everyone a favor.
Oh yeah.
And one of the problems is I love what you're doing on the show. I love your co-host. I love Dope Dynamics. I love stuff like that.
Right.
The other day, in a conversation about Kevin Samuels, I heard somebody compare him to a certain German leader of a nationalist socialist party that came this close to taking over the world.
Yes, he's speaking of Victor Von Doom.
I'm like, yeah, you are in Fanboy Modeling School, so that's your lesson you're gonna get. And I'm like, is that really necessary? You really this person wanted to compare him to that? We're at a point where people can't even let people have different ideas. They immediately become the devil. They're immediately a monster. They don't pull their punches.
Yeah, no, the comparison of the tiny terror there is I think an extreme one. But let me lay this out, man, because I know that some of this talk isn't for everyone. And I'm okay with that too. I understand there's spaces. People come to places where they just want to have a good time. So make sure you check out Brunch with the Fat Mantis. That's a more lighthearted show where Mantis makes fun of all these things. Fanboy is not always this way, but we feel compelled sometimes to talk about this stuff. And make sure you check out on Tuesday nights, Dumbing Out with Cincy Star and myself. And, we're prepare for the launch of Fight Juice. We're going to have some amazing, fun, lighthearted content on there.
Yeah.
But
we're launching a joint. I don't think they can we say what it is or
go. Yeah.
We're launching a joint YouTube channel. And actually one of our members is going to be a VTuber.
Right.
And I've been talking to them, and they're doing all the art for their VTuber persona. So when that's all ready, then we'll be able to launch. Because me and you are we love the camera. We're models. So you know what I'm saying? This person wants to hide like a coward. It's all good.
Yeah, the whole thing with Kevin Samuels and what I was trying last night, my overarching point was not in defense of Kevin Samuels. It was to point out hypocrisy. Now, if we're just examining the man himself and the comparison to a dictator, then I think you've given him too much. You've given him too much sway. But
Yeah,
I'm interested. I talked about it ad nauseum last night. Shout out to Lainey, Pubs, yourself, Bex, Cincy Star, Carmen, D Love, and everyone else that came through for that conversation. Your boy got a little lit. That might have been the last of my immune system I screamed out last night. I am convinced.
Blame it on the vid, right? You're going to blame it on the coof.
If I hadn't been
blame it on the coof. Blame it on the virus.
If I had not been screaming so much, I probably wouldn't have gotten sick. But I want to hear your thoughts on the man and what you know.
Okay, so the first thing, and Pubs over there is, shout out to Public Friend, says, I think that's called hyperbole.
Yeah.
So I think now, and that is true. That is the word that is used. However, I think people use that word, hyperbole,
right,
to justify being extreme. Because extreme talk leads to stuff. And so someone who is a follower of this person who said that is then going to be like, well, he's equivalent to someone who commits genocide.
Right.
And I think it is very unhealthy.
Yeah.
So at who he is, what he's about, I understand what he's doing. But also I understand enough about him why I can't explain it to people who aren't a fan of him.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. We were talking in the chat during your show, and we were talking about, since he was bringing up, like, he's like, well, not all coaches have to be mean and yell and yet. And I was like, well, actually, in terms of coaching or mentors, I prefer them to give me straight talk and to just tell me to shut up or to do something, to bark at orders at me. That's how my parenting was. That's how parenting was for me. So that's what I respond to.
Right.
I like, so, and this is an example of what it is. He says what sounds like extreme things, but it's for a particular audience.
Right.
And if an outsider hears it, they're going to be very uncomfortable.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Expound on that. Well, let me ask you this. Have you been watching any of his content? And
I have seen his content in the past.
Okay. And what were your initial thoughts when you heard that he passed?
Obviously I thought what everyone else did. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Because when you have a lot of haters, you have a different hater every day telling a lie that you're dead.
Yes.
That's basically what you get.
This is crazy because when I was still going by a different moniker when we were kids, you know how many times people would say that they had heard I'd been you remember that?
I remember the moniker, and I actually remember that people would say that. The first couple times I fell for it because it was believable. Always were believable. I was like, he said what to the cop? And then you show up the next morning at the Haven, and you're like, crazy night. I'm like, I thought you were dead. But then after a while, I stopped believing it. But yeah, that's true. People do that when you have the haters out there.
Yeah, it's true, man. And then so Mantis, you're a man of a certain age, ripe age of 26 years old, fresh to this earth,
Yes.
You haven't been around as long as I have been. What is your understanding of his message? That's what I've always wanted to ask you, because you and I have never had this conversation before, ever.
Okay. So the way I interpret him, and some people are going to call me probably going to call me a grifter or a liar or whatever, but whatever. He was doing a battle cry to young men, trying to motivate them to up their game, up what they expect in life, up on every level what they can do and achieve.
Right.
And by doing that, he does this thing where it's true, and for lack of a better word, he separates a concept of what a loser is and what a winner is. And he says, a winner does this. And he's not ready to say, he's like 100%, a winner does this, a loser does this. And he draws that line. And so not everyone, some people are like, well, what about the exception? Blah, 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 blah. He doesn't have time to talk about the exception. That was just his method of coaching, life coaching.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it is. And he paints these pictures. People are like, he's being, he body shames. He's so mean to or disparaging to people of a certain age or certain lifestyle or whatever. He's trying to create cautionary tale.
Right. Okay.
He's kind of being like, do you want to be a loser living in your mom's basement, overweight, have no one, or do you want to achieve your dreams? This is how you do it, son. And it reminds me of like a drill sergeant.
Right.
Trying to get someone who has probably, a lot of people probably have failed several times in their lives, achieving the things they want. And this is what he's saying. He's like, there's still a chance to fix it. Fix it now or you suck. Like now, and then they do it, you know what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of people, we live in this real age, like we're talking about the beta age, where people are just like, they need their hands hold. They're like, I want my teacher to hold my hand and jerk me off. Not everyone's going to do that.
I don't think anybody wants. Wait, is it your naughty French teacher? What are you talking about?
It's a figure of speech. It's hyperbole. Just ask public friend.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? They want this. They want this beta, caring, loving thing. And like I said, I think I told you that in Kung Fu, I have had the master I was with the longest. And he was like a nice hippie. And he was like, let's all love each other. We need nature. And he was like one of those spiritual Kung Fu guys. Right. But I've had other ones. One when I was in junior high school when I started Kung Fu, and then one later on after him, after I left his school. And they were both militant. And so the one when I was a kid he had served in a war, like I believe it was Vietnam. He said his Kung Fu got him through it, and he would tell crazy stories of times he'd had to kill people and shit. Yes. And I responded way better than that. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was if you were whispering with a friend, I remember he would call you out and make fun of you.
Yes.
And he'd be like, I know you two are in love. You're in the middle of a Kung Fu class. What if someone on the street to come knock you out? What would you, and like that kind of thing. And then you like push-ups. You were late. You had to do push-ups till he acknowledged you. I like that.
Wait, can I ask a question? Did your Kung Fu teacher have like a big afro with mutton chops?
There were multiple guys like that, and one of those guys had a big fro. The lanky guy was a big fro, but Sifu Robert, he had shaved his head at that time. Big black dude, he was like old Black Panther, old school cat, old school. He'd seen it all. Yeah. And so he did like the scared straight, like you need this or you're gonna die in the streets. Ooh. And I like that better than and I love my master back in Charlottesville, but he was gentle and soft. And I would be like, I'd come in late and I'd be like, push-ups? He's like, no, I understand. Not everyone can be here at a certain time. And I would say, thank you, master. But in the back of my head, I'd be like, pussy. And so I respond better to that because that was what parenting was in my household growing up.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Kevin Samuels is doing that, but like for dating and like achieving things in life.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about like his approach, so the Facebook group, I touched on this lightly when DaVinci and I were talking last night because I think we were just more dealing with what's true and what's his legacy and what versus what's said had been said. And someone pointed out something amazing today. They were like, at this point, whether you like him or not, he's a part of American history. And for this brief moment in American history, I think grand total 2 years, if that, this gentleman made a series of content, started a conversation, created a whole new market on
He
YouTube.
was the founder of that genre.
And
Or one
it's
of the founders of the genre.
yeah, it's him, O'Shea, Duke Jackson, Obsidian, those guys like that. And he started a conversation that had been kind of lost. But I remember I was looking at some of his stuff today because I'm going to do my own thing on it, just privately, recording stuff. Mantis has been pushing me to do more talking head stuff. So I've been recording videos and not sending them to Mantis. I'm like, no, it's not autiste enough.
Here's the secret.
What?
You take like a teddy bear.
Uh-huh.
You put it up on your computer, right?
Yeah.
Take a picture of someone you like to talk to.
Oh, myself.
And you pin it to its face.
Yes.
And then you have a conversation with that.
That sounds like it would work. That's a really good piece of advice.
Like you could use Ronald Reagan. Ronnie.
I loathe Ronnie, man. We can talk about Ronnie in our private time. But it's the dating group that Kevin Samuels. Go look up the No Jumper interview he did. He talked about creating this group where he verified ladies and people, human beings. I want you all to listen. Kevin Samuels created a Facebook group where he vetted all the men that came in, vetted that they actually were making the money or working the jobs that they said they had and had the credit scores that they said that they had. And then he invited women into the Facebook group who were looking for these type of men who fit the type of worldview that these men had. I don't want to call it old school, but basically they were looking for wives and wives were looking for husbands. And he's like, then I just stepped out of the way and let these people talk. And he's like, the next thing I know, marriages are popping up out of this group.
Of course, yeah. That's smart. That's super smart.
He's like, and he went to both sides. He told the men, he was like, you can let your guard down because these women are here to meet you. Like, you don't have to worry about them. And he said the same thing to the women. He's like, you can let your guards down because these men are here to meet you. And I thought that was ingenious. And he was just like, you just step back and you let it happen and let nature take its course. I don't, but he has, he's used a harsh language, like you said. So I guess I don't know if it's a generational thing, but like I was telling DaVinci last night, like if you go watch the context of a majority of those interviews that people quote him from, I guarantee if you rewind 5 minutes prior to the statement he made, there was a question asked, even with the average at best. The question was, well, if you believe you deserve an above average man, and this is the trigger question, what do you bring to the table to deserve that? And what makes you more deserving than the other million women that are trying to get this, that are vying for this man's attention? And then, he allowed this woman to answer, and her answers were based on her looks, right? And she's like, this is why I deserve this. And she kind of set herself up. He was a king of the okie doke for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he set you up good. He'd set you up real good. And then he'd break it out. But what is he breaking out? Oh, the harsh truth.
Right.
And so ultimately, I think it was the funniest thing that I've seen, and I probably can't quote the tweet because people will think it's insensitive. But basically what he said is, the kid said, "Why does everyone hate Kevin Samuels so much? All he did was tell blanks and blanks to have realistic expectations." So you know what I'm saying, and like that is a way to phrase it. That is absolutely a way to phrase it.
Yeah, and he tore into the guys too. There's a video. It's behind his paywall now, but there's a video of him talking to a chubbier fellow, and it wasn't about the guy being chubby. It was about the guy's attitude towards women, and he's just going on and on and on and on why he deserves this type of woman. And Kevin's just looking at him, and you can literally see like horns coming out of his head and starting to point at the guy. And he's like, well, brother, can I ask you a question? He's like, what do you do for a living?
What do you do for? Yeah, exactly. And so, but also another thing in terms of, he was obsessed with like what you could do for a living or whatever. But the truth is if a woman just meets you and she doesn't know anything about you, it is a high probability she's going to judge you on what you do.
Yeah.
That's like the second question people ask you when they meet you on the dating scene. What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
absolutely do that. And if you're like, well, like, well, I'm unemployed, been unemployed for the last 3 years, there is a high probability that this hot girl that you met on a dating site is not going to stick around.
Yeah.
And she's not wrong necessarily for doing that.
No, not at all. Actually, that's a good way to kind of switch this up. I guess we can get into going around the world. To the women and human beings in the chat. I want to ask you a clear question. If someone has nothing when you first meet him, when you meet them, could you potentially be drawn to their potential? Right. So
This one's interesting.
I was a substance abuse counselor, which is a respectable field when I met Mrs. Holdup. Re-met Mrs. Holdup is more appropriate. And I was making like $14.25 an hour, and that was at that time the most legal money I've ever made from any job.
The best legal money I've ever made.
So, I believe Mrs. Holdup, if she was here right now, would say that she was drawn to my potential because I had plans to do things greater than I was at the time. Go ahead.
Well, I had a female friend once say, though, but this might be the difference between men and women. That she claimed that she was like, women look at potential. They look at you if they can fix you up. Men are like into what they see right there.
Right.
That women are into potential. However, I don't know. Maybe I'm labeling myself as feminine or something because I often do look at potential. I don't care if a girl has a good job or whatever. But I do want her to have a passion and then be into it and like go for it. So I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing for people to have standards. It's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And so people I thought this was a universal, emancipated, egalitarian, hippie commune where we're all equal. I don't know if your mama told you that, but it was a lie.
I mean, the lies we have to unlearn from kindergarten and our parents are vast, right? We come into an age where we start to realize that, like, you are not a unique butterfly. You are not a pretty snowflake. This is the world, and you have to either adjust or completely rebel against it.
Or if you were a unique butterfly, and I'm talking such shit because like I probably haven't blossomed yet either because I think I'm a butterfly, right?
Right.
But the idea is that you would have shown it so far.
Right.
Public says
sorry, I'll bring it back up.
Public says, I don't care about what jobs people have. I make more money than most people my age I meet, so I never have any expectations about that. But potential is important. Yeah. So I think it's like drive. For me, it's drive, and it's they have to like know what they want and be like going for it. And
so Bex says it's happened for me twice, being drawn to potential, but it never worked out. So no, I don't do projects anymore. All right, let me land on this one right here.
No projects.
So here's the difference between using myself. I was not a fixer-upper. I had already fixed myself. Any issue that I had been dealing with in life, the only thing Mrs. Holdup really, the only thing Mrs. Holdup really brought in regards to like her presence in upgrading me was she put a brother on to fashion. She was like, hey, let's switch it up. You wear a lot of Dickies and skater clothes and stuff like that. But my core issues that I've been struggling with, I already went to therapy. I went to job counseling. I had done all these things prior to my wife. So go ahead.
You were always fashionable though.
No, you're thinking
always dressing in the height of fashion.
No, you're thinking drug dealer fashion. That's that's a different thing, my brother. But
it's not like you dress like a nerd or some shit.
With the gold and shit.
Yeah, you're the one who told me about UFOs. You're the one who put me onto that shit.
Yeah, no one thought those things were fashionable except for us. But I had already done the core work emotionally and like was on my career path. So I think there's a difference between someone having potential and someone pretending to have potential. Right. And
because there's so much jive talk out there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think people are drawn to projects, and that's more on the other side of the table as well. Like I have a lot of friends who are, myself included, back in the day, I would be drawn to these damsels in distress. And I realized it wasn't just that the women were constantly in chaos. I was constantly looking to save these women. Instead of heeding the words of the great prophet, these hoes ain't loyal. Wait, that's not that's not
I
relevant.
thought you were at the break out some Elijah Muhammad right there.
No.
Hello, Hannah Banana and Shaolin Iceboxer. Welcome to
What up? DT Dub TV is in there. What up? What's going on?
What up? So the projects, Bax broke it out. Projects. Is it a project to think someone has potential and be like, you can fix them? Now, here's the thing: with anything, you need to have realistic expectations. How much can they change? Because if you look at them and you're like, well, I can make this man president.
Hold on a second. Before you make that point, I think this is fundamentally the issue here. What makes you, the person who's deeming this person a project, think that they need to be fixed and that you're the one to fix them?
So,
go ahead, continue.
I would argue, however, on counterpoint. Counterpoint. I would say that if they think they're bearing my children, that's what they think they're going to do. I am now in a place to judge them.
No.
If they're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they're like.
But so you misunderstand my question. If they looked as if though something needed to be fixed in them prior to the bearing of children, or whatever the other side of this for a woman is, why did you even embark in the journey? Because there's a difference between potential, like someone who's working their way towards a goal, and then someone is like, hey man, just 30 more days in rehab, man. You know, right?
No, I feel you. It is a fool's game. I think Bax was right. It is a fool's game ultimately to have projects or to really just look at someone as a fixer-upper. I would say I think we should just be more, like I said, discerning as to how far potential, like what is potential and where are they going to really land. And like I said, a guy who's like been unemployed for months and his job before that was a drug dealer. Can you make him president? That's unrealistic.
Yeah. Right.
Can you make him take out the garbage on Monday morning? Maybe.
Will he not beat you before he does it?
Lainey says, don't get into relationships where you feel you need to save anyone. It never works.
Yeah. I've seen some people save some people though, but it's not and this is another thing that Kevin preached, that is not the norm. Right. A lot of people have the exception to the rule has somehow become the standard. But Mantis, any projects you wish you would have never undertaken? Share a story with us.
Tell us. Half of these bitches. I'm sorry. I mean, half of these ladies. Thank God Da Vinci doesn't listen to this. But
and now let me bring up our second panelist, Da Vinci.
There are plenty that you tell yourself they're in a phase, they're going through something, they'll change.
Right.
And actually, I think my big one. I had that big one. I was almost locked down to. I don't know what her personality disorder was, but it was like something.
I hope that one day you share that story, because I think it's going to put a lot of things right sized on a lot of conversations that we have and the treatment of men in this world. Some men, not all men, but continue.
But yeah, no, there is that one. I think it's probably for a different live stream to really get into that one project, but definitely that project.
Right.
And so I don't know how to say this without being without offending people or whatever being in the thing. Basically, I got involved with a girl she was like a white wannabe hood rat who was like a kleptomaniac thief, been in and out of jail type chick. We thought we were expecting. And I felt like I was locked in, like this was it. And I remember a very close person that I love very much said to me, you don't have to be in this situation. Just get rid of it and move on with your life.
Oof. Okay.
And so that's a conversation for another time. That's a different level. But yeah, you can find yourself stuck in these kind of situations, right?
Right.
And then you're like, why did I take this up? However, at the end of the day, I do believe in the blessings of God, and I believe that God brought that person in my life to teach me several lessons, which I certainly learned.
Quick shout out to Mikey. Thanks for the drops and those loves. Friends, Great Winthrop, welcome in. Yeah, that's heavy, man. That's heavy because
it was the heaviest time in my life, actually.
I remember.
The crazy drama, the crazy things going on in my life. It was insane. It was absolutely, it was affecting my family, my job, everything, my freedom.
Yeah.
Gray with us says Michelle Robinson was a senior associate at her law firm when she was asked to mentor a new first-year lawyer named Barack Obama. Obviously, the best mentor ever. Oh, snap. She was robbing the cradle, eh? Younger guy?
I don't think that's what Gray meant, you sick bastard.
What up, Mikey? Good to see you, brother. Someone say chicken, says Carmen. Okay, thank you for that. But so are you allowed to talk? You know, I know you're happily married, but are you allowed to talk about projects you wish you didn't?
Oh, absolutely, man. So I've had multiple projects, but the one that almost crippled a brother, which I'm going to use the correct language, that I almost allowed to cripple me, was a young woman in California who was about 8 years my junior. I was still I was like my late 20s, and I was still holding on to that last vestige of early 20s. You know, I'm getting ready to turn 30, and I'm dating what was she, like 20 or some shit like that? And I saw the depths and levels of dysfunction that one family could have, right? Also, I learned the fear of thinking you might have contracted an STD.
Ooh.
I've learned the fear of almost getting arrested fighting the baby daddy. You know what I'm saying? Because he called me a racial slur.
You gotta love it when the baby daddy drama comes in.
Baby daddy. I became a stepfather for a whole summer and attached myself to a child because I was in love with the mother. And then when the relationship broke up, I had to now separate myself from the child, which was exceedingly difficult for multiple reasons. Yeah, man. Yes. And I don't want to say her name, but it was horrible, bro. It was horrible. And actually, it overlapped when me and Mrs. Holdup had reunited. I went to the city to meet Mrs. Holdup. Came from California to visit, and of course, I still made a move on Mrs. Holdup because I'm that motherfucker.
Didn't Mrs. Holdup was comforting you through your defeat on that relationship?
Yes, she was comforting me through that defeat, and she, we're like, I remember the exact moment we were sitting in Thompson Square Park. It's the summertime, and she's like leaning against me, and she like is holding. Women lean against you when you're bigger than them, and they just, they feel secure, so they're leaning against your chest because you're a real man. And she's holding my arm, and she looks up at me, and I'm thinking she's gonna say something really nice. She's like, "I know you're gonna go back and get with that chick." I predicted. And that's exactly what happened. And I actually had to fight to get Mrs. Holdup back after that situation. So yeah, I've been there, bro. And I think the thing I learned, what God taught me in that situation about projects, is not only do you believe someone when they show you who they are, but forgiveness does not mean I have to stay in proximity of you. I forgive.
Oh, absolutely.
I forgive that young lady through and through. I pray for her. I pray for her son, who is apparently doing extremely well. It's a long, complicated story, Mantis. I'm telling you, it's so big that if I tried to explain it right now, it's horrible. It would be hard.
Oh yeah, these stories are epic. I think we all have like an epic story that it's like the Odyssey or something. Yeah. Or the Iliad, right? You could just go on and on about the drama that they brought into your life.
And that's why I cut her out of my life. When I was done with her, I absolutely removed every image of her on Facebook. And this wasn't to be spiteful. It was just like, this part of my life is over. I don't ever want to be able to look back at it, ruminate it. And I think that's what people do when they leave relationships. Instead of just cutting it off, knowing it was unhealthy, they go back, they look at the Facebook post, they remember the good times and all that shit. Whenever I would look at the Facebook post and I thought about a good time, I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute. She slept with one of the kids from my drug counseling center.
Oh, something crazy. Yeah.
No, that's not something crazy. That's something she did.
Oh, someone you were counseling.
Yes.
But you realize on the good side, I would say that Mrs. Holdup in that story was Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Or should I say Michelle Robinson? And you were the young intern.
Why
she was
doing that. I'm sorry.
Michelle Robinson. Yeah. And then your young Barack and love story. There you go.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
Public says you were Mrs. Holdup's project.
No, actually, Mrs. Holdup doesn't take on projects, and I won't be anyone's project. And that's the difference between me and other people. I think that's what like pulled me towards some of Kevin Samuel's message. is that and you and I got into a disagreement about this before my first child was born. I'm someone that knows that if you put in hard work, chances are you'll find some level of success. It may not be the success that you thought it was going to be, but you might find some rewards for your work. And after getting clean and, being a substance abuse counselor and putting my life together, the one thing I didn't want to do was give the credit to someone else. What Mrs. Holdup is a blessing from God, right? She is a beautiful addition to the life that I was given after screwing up for so many years. She's her own person. She came in. I didn't fix her up. She didn't fix me up. We did work together to build this marriage, and like, that's the thing.
For the audience, he's saying he gets the credit, but we all know it was Mrs. Holdup.
No.
Oh, you were serious.
No,
I'm like joking around. You're serious. You're like, no.
No, I'm down.
1,000% me.
So when we first started redating, we had all these conversations, like we got our boundaries out there. I told her everything that I've ever done. And I was like, and this is shit I don't ever want to deal with again. I was like, I don't ever want to be in a situation with a woman where you think you can put your hands on me because society tells you that you can do it. Now, I won't touch you back, but that's it. We're done. I don't play those games. You know what I'm saying? None of this. You ain't calling me a B word in public. None of that. None of that. And she told me all the stuff. She didn't want any F-boy behavior. She was like, I'm not raising a child. I don't want a boy in my life. She's like, I want to be a homemaker. She went to college. She did everything that a woman is supposed to do according to the stipulations of today's standards. And she literally told me, she's like, I want to be able to stay home and raise my children for as long as they are children. And I want to.
Your black ass is gonna go out and work.
You're gonna do the
she
thing.
Told you.
Like she wanted a man that can do that, and I think that's something that Kevin Samuels brought to the table. Like, that's why I always push back on the toxic masculinity thing. It's toxic until I protect you with that part of me.
Yo, I gotta tell you, that phrase drives me nuts.
I know it does.
Toxic masculinity, it's a slur, basically.
It's because you're toxic, Mantis. That's why.
No, it's because these Satanists and their newspeak are trying to turn masculinity into something evil.
Look,
we already have words. We already have words to describe the things we don't like: bullying, jerk, asshole, whatever it is. Right. But to associate it with just masculinity is a perversion, and it only creates fighting. Look, we're fighting right now.
I'm not fighting.
Yes, you are.
You got your red muscle man shirt on. You're getting angry. You're taking steroids again. But I think that's the thing that Kevin brought to the table. Now, there are things, like I said last night, I disagree with some. I would say there's a lot of stuff I disagree with. I don't believe in assimilation into the dominant culture. I think you can stand out and succeed in America while retaining your ancestry if that's what you're proud of, 100%. Well, you disagree? Mantis is all about assimilation. He's like the Borg from Star Trek.
No, but I'm saying, and once again,
go ahead.
Anything I say right now is you're potentially gonna take offense at.
No, I don't take offense at your worldview. The only time I'm offended by someone's worldview is when they can't back it up.
Okay. So, but you don't think that you are to an extent assimilated?
Assimilated to what exactly?
Like, you wear the white man's clothing. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
You drive their cars.
These clothing? This clothes? This shit was made.
I'm saying our standard of living.
Hold on for a second. This shit was made in Taiwan.
But I'm saying the styles and all that stuff were made by the man.
No, I dress urban. According to this generation, I dress in the manner of which the hip hop generation, my generation, should. So it wasn't, that was reversed.
Well, you mean a different generation's hip hop, because it's not like you're in skinny jeans and have like tattoo, piercings.
Oh, man, I want skinny jeans so bad. I just want to wear them out one day. Moose knuckle and full throttle.
Yeah, you're not just like these mobile rappers, so you're not really hip hop. But I know what you mean. But I would say that you don't go 1,000% hip hop when you go to work.
Pants sagging, complaining the whole way.
Yeah, because there's an expectation of how to behave in society, and that expectation was created by white people. I'm just saying.
Okay, so that expectation of professionalism was not created by white people. But if you were to say the Western expectation of professionalism was, then I would understand.
Right, it's Western,
what you're saying. But that's not assimilating into the appropriate culture. So when Kevin Samuels was talking about assimilating, he was talking about, hey, let it go. We lost. He was talking about the type of assimilation when the Romans conquered the Britons. That type of
Is he?
assimilation.
Let me ask you: is he talking about wearing a suit that he's like, we lost, we should wear suits now?
No, those weren't the two issues. The context in which he said it was when people were talking about systemic racism and and black people not succeeding. That's the context. It had nothing to do with fashion. It was more in regards to it's time for us to buy in to this culture. It's time for us to let go, specifically for African Americans, since we have no real attachment to the continent of Africa.
I mean, I hear on that part of it. I do hear the part of that stuff because as much as we rap Africa, it's like it's a far away
They ain't
dream.
repping us. No, go
Yeah, they aren't repping us.
yeah.
And so let's say all the blacks in America were like, we're sick of this. We're going back to Africa. They
Right.
wouldn't take us back.
I think
Where would we go? It's over. It's
I
over.
think Morgan Freeman had the most accurate look on this. African American culture, African American history is American history. But if I was to describe the culture of African Americans, I would say we would be one of the only cultures where it's so closely tied to the last 400 years. Right? Infancy, some people might say. We're completely detached from what we knew before. No proof of any of that. You can trace it. You can go through lineage. You can go through dig sites and all these things, but you'll never know what part of the Congolese your people were from and what their rights
Yeah,
and practices were. But what you will know is you are a survivor and descendant of a people that were enslaved and thrived and built this country on their back, helped to
yeah.
build this country on their back. And that's a culture I'm glad to be a part of. But I won't do that thing where I'm like, they ain't never gonna get your boy to fully like submit and be like, well, hey, slavery wasn't never
Okay.
bad.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I feel you that. But
Do you, Mantis? Because you keep sending me literature contrary to my view.
this particular thing I feel you on. Because what it is I was trying to also play off of the thing because I got a lot of people who are like, I ain't got nothing to do with Judeo Christianity. It's got nothing to blah 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 blah. And I was like, everything in your moral code was
Yeah.
created by that because you live in a society that was built by that, and you didn't live in a bubble and create your own morale. You're like, we live in a Wicca bubble and somehow came up with humanism and all these other concepts. I'm like, no, you didn't.
No.
Christians made that up,
Yeah.
and you're living in a Christian society, and that's why you are.
You know who you sound like right now, and this is not a knock. When Jordan Peterson had what people thought was a blackout moment on Joe Rogan when he was trying to explain the importance of the Bible to Western culture, I think it was the lack of vernacular understanding where people was like, he's not making any sense. I'm like, no, you just don't understand the word he's using. So
Yes.
say that instead of it's like he's not making any sense. But he was talking about well, that's for another time. I want to get you to address something that Public brought up in the chat about toxic masculinity. What about the instances Public brought up? What about the instances where little boys are told not to cry? What's your experience with that? Because I got multiple, and 2 of them are appropriate.
I was told not to cry, and it was from women. It was women. Oh yeah, my grandmother would slap me in the face if I was crying, and she was just like, "You're a man. Be a man.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cry." Yeah. No. I turned out all right. I do agree with Public saying strict gender roles can be toxic. I agree. If the gender roles are too strict, it is bad. Obviously, there's flexibility in this concept.
Here's the thing. I want to address this. Women can also reinforce reinforce toxic masculinity. Okay, so there are some cultures that exist pre these terms, right? Where it is just not acceptable for a little boy to cry for frivolous things. No one's telling him to suppress his feelings, but if you scrape your knee and your mother comes to your aid and she says it's time to stop crying, then that's teaching a young man something he needs to know. Like, the pain has been addressed. I need you to stand up now and let's keep walking. And the reason that exists in a lot of cultures, just think back, maybe 1,000 years ago, you would have to teach a young man or young woman that, hey, we are a nomadic tribe. You need to stand up. You either stand up or you get left behind. And a lot of
There
that
are worse things than scrapes. They're going to happen to you when you grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why so many people crumble at adversity nowadays because they don't know when it's time
Right.
to stand up and
They
stop crying.
they were taught in the new age of learning things. It was taught it's good to give into your anxiety. It's like it's your feeling, feel it now. And then they do that every time. And so that by the time they're adult, they're like, I can't deal with any stress. And I'm like, okay, then curl up in a ball and die. I will tell you this: the not crying thing. I'll tell you a quick story of like where it's bad. And it was a neighbor. It's so complicated. In the summers, I was sent away from home because my mom has no use for me. And so we were sent away to like other people out in the country. And there was a neighbor, and I knew them when they were younger, and they were like very Christian, very American. And they moved away, and I didn't see them for many, many years. And when I finally saw them, it turned out her husband had died. And her son was in basic training in the army. And she was telling the story that she called her son, and her son heard his dad died, and his son was crying. And her mother proudly told us the story about how she told him to stop crying and that he's the man of the house.
Right.
And that's where I think it goes too far. The young man is allowed to cry when his father dies.
Yeah, that's
where it gets out of hand.
But see, here's the thing. You know why I reject the term toxic masculinity? Because it's tied to a narrative. And the people that came up with the term don't have any interest in protecting masculinity or young boys.
It's there to be incite disagreement, fighting, and arguing. And it's there to alienate and oppress people. And so if we had beat them to the punch and created toxic femininity, which exists here and there, I promise you, every woman who's picketing the Supreme Court right now would be picketing us.
No.
I think it would be a disgusting, atrocious thing to say about women. I find it effing like incredibly offensive.
I agree.
Take toxic masculinity and shove it up your ass.
Oh my goodness. I agree with that statement 100%. I'm sorry, my camera won't refocus. First time. There we go. There's that. No, there I go again. So DaVinci and I talked about this, and I was like, I don't believe in the term toxic masculinity, but what you're describing would just be called evil. People who do evil things and enforce evil views upon people, and you take into consideration like a culture and what is the predominant view on these things in the culture. I can tell you that in certain Muslim households, I won't speak for every Muslim household, the Quran and the Hadith speaks clearly on the way a man should deal with his anguish and the way he should behave, and none of it really involves like suppressing your feelings. In the Bible, often it talks about men crying, weeping, beating their chests, ripping their clothes open. Right. No one has an issue with men crying. What I do have an issue with is an unhealthy environment where abusive people have helped to create this new narrative. There's a difference between a good coach that pushes you past your limits than versus a coach that's beating you on the field, telling you it's good. So I would concede there.
Right. Gray says masculinity isn't some sacred concept. There are good and bad things about it as a social construct. You're right, but you do not need to add masculinity to a phrase. Like if someone is bullying, just call them a bully. The idea that like it's toxic masculinity. Guess what? Women bully too. You've heard of mean girling? If anything, women invented that, but I'm not allowed to go into that because I'll be a sexist.
But all right, so I'm not entirely sure anyone made masculinity a sacred concept. It's just all right, let me jump out the window, folks. I'm sick.
we always do it on Fanboy. We got to do it. Shellen even said, "Oh God, Mantis, you're going to start pitchforks and torches in the comments."
Here's the thing, man. Here is the thing about this conversation that's so interesting, right? I will not raise my sons to be brutal men, but I will never use a term like toxic masculinity, which is just this forced, made up, pseudo-intellectual concept that has nothing to do with anything you would ever read in the DSM. It's not a thing. It's not a prognosis. It's not a diagnosis. This is a term that was popularized to describe bad behaviors. So instead of giving into that narrative, here's what I simply say to my boys and I say to other men. Being an honorable man is the most important thing. Being a man is not a construct. Now, that doesn't mean everyone that's born male is a man. Like it just isn't true. And like I think the thing and that was another reason I think people reacted poorly to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels wouldn't go into these boxes where they're just like, you're toxic. He's like, Well, how am I toxic? What did I do that's toxic by your definition? I'm like, well, you said something. You disagreed with me harshly, and it's like, well, wait, am I not allowed to disagree with you harshly when you say something that sounds completely moronic? Like, at what point is emotion allowed in the conversation? Because on the flip side of that, recently on the show, we've talked about a few times when it's okay to be emotive, right? But who decides when it's okay to be emotive? We want men to be in touch with their feelings. Guess what? Being stern and being angry at someone saying something dumb to you, that's a feeling. I'm just, I'm not giving.
No, you're absolutely right. I absolutely reject this concept that words are violence in any way. I wouldn't even say someone dropping the N-bomb to someone's face is necessarily violence. It may be fighting words, but it's not that. It's
Listen,
in itself, it's not violence.
I tell white people all the time, I'm like, you can say the word. You just gotta be willing to deal with whatever happens next.
That's exactly what it is.
Like,
We're free to speak. We're always free to speak in America so far. I haven't checked the newspaper today, but as far as I know, the liberals haven't taken away our right to free speech yet. But they think being free to say it should free them of consequences, and that's what they don't understand.
Yeah, I agree with what Hannah just said. I think you have to use discernment on when it is appropriate to express emotions. Thank you. And everyone's always talking about emotional intelligence, but that's what it really is, man.
Yeah.
This evil doesn't come about because of quote unquote gender roles. This evil comes about because of quote unquote evil individuals and weak back people not willing to be able to stand up. But the ironic thing is, if you start telling every man not to stand up, how will men then in turn protect women? Do you think these hippies with the sandals and the tufts of hair on their chest are going to
some hippie isn't building, let's say, give an example, the Washington Monument. They ain't building anything. They aren't building great things. They aren't doing great things. They aren't landing on the damn moon.
Right.
Because what it is it takes an assertive person to do that.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's
weak-wristed people. I dropped something in the Discord for Dope Dynamics the other night because and this wasn't about gloating. It's interesting to me because it takes they're building.
Look at her comment. They're building peace and love. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for that.
I dropped something into the about the situation with Cesar. We won't use his real name and what we had to do to help someone one day, right?
Wait, give me a little more. Who did you say?
Me and Mario, when we jumped off the bus to help that girl.
I know that story.
Here's the thing, right? I have yet to hear from, and this is not the sum totality. I have yet to hear from any male feminist, right? Or any male that has ever used that term toxic masculinity to completely engulf all masculine traits. Because that's what happens. People use it as a blanket statement. And then they say we need to, the next part, some people say this, we need to deconstruct masculinity. I've yet to see those people put any skin in the game, but your boy did. You know what I'm saying? Mantis will. We're not just sitting up here, two guys with mics. Multiple times we've thrown ourselves in the face of danger to help people and help women. As soon as some of these weak-wristed men start doing something, I will respect them. But until then, it's just a bunch of people on the internet.
Yeah, they're all big talkers. They're all big talkers. All the protesters, like you said, the male feminists, all these things, they are big talkers. But at the end of the day, that's also we are really shitting on a certain type of person tonight. At the end of the day, that's also the excuse of being like, what do they call it? Like, like, I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in war. I don't believe in war either. I don't think we should have war, but it's a thing. But people are like, well, I don't believe in that. And so therefore what they're saying is if a woman was, say, endangered on the street, they're going to let her get taken or hurt.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't believe in violence. And I'm like, well, what good are you?
Yeah. Well, how do you?
It's what Anna said. You have to discern when the appropriate emotion is there. And there is an appropriate time that you take action. I'm not going to say what that is because we're on apps and apps could ban us. That you have to take action for something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think an appropriate time is when you're chilling with your boys and one guy does something completely out of line. And you're like, oh, snap, look at how weak he is. And then we all start spitting on him and pull his underwear down. Wait, never mind.
Oh my goodness.
I was describing frat boy behavior.
Yes, I know. Well, fake, that doesn't really happen. Well, that happens in the white frat. I believe it's a big oversight to not ascribe some of society's toxicity to strict gender. That's a tough one.
Okay,
Because
let me unpack it because I got to read it twice. I believe it's a big oversight to not ascribe some of society's toxicity to strict gender roles. Okay, go ahead, Mantis.
Because I was going to say that ultimately the problem that I have with that phrase that we've been going into, the toxic masculinity, is that the phenomenons that they're always describing as toxic masculinity are phenomenon that happen in groups of women as well, and therefore cannot be only ascribed to masculinity, and therefore have nothing to do with masculinity.
Right.
And so being an overzealous leader, mocking or embarrassing your underlings in front of other people, saying something they're not good enough or woman enough or whatever it is done by all humans on this planet. And therefore it cannot be ascribed to masculinity. People who are labeling it to doing are purposely mislabeling it to create buzz or a fight or an issue.
So you're talking about the capacity of anyone being able to commit evil acts is not.
Yes. So when I back in my frat, when I was the Beastmaster, my behavior to my pledges, people were like, that's toxic masculinity. No, it isn't. The sorority down the road is doing it to their girls.
Right.
And therefore that has nothing to do with toxic masculinity. It has nothing to do with masculinity.
Public says I don't get catcalled by women on the street. Yeah, but Mantis once forcibly nearly was shamed into having coitus with a woman.
Why did you just say that?
Because you said it on air before, bro.
I know, but like, yeah, that can definitely happen. But what I'm saying is, okay, you don't get catcalled. I've been catcalled by women on the street. What do you mean? I've had women being like, "Oh, look at you, Poppy." Yeah, absolutely. What are you talking about? That happens.
And man just turned right around. He was like, "Hey,
hey, what up, girl? What up, baby?" Oh, I've gotten. Oh, where you going, baby? You know, total stranger. I get that. Yeah, that happens. I'll slap. Lady says, "I'll slap a bitch if they try to take me. It's also why I choose to remain fluffy. I'm harder to nab." Oh man. Hold up is coughing his lung out right now, as we all know. What about Madison Cawthorn? That is toxic and shit only men do. No. That's unfortunately that's some Midwestern frat boy shit, and like I think women be doing that kind of weird.
What is the Madison? Explain that to me. Let's unpack that.
He is a young conservative who just became a congressman, and then
the dick grabber.
The dick grabber. So he decides to claim that everyone in Washington, it's all about sex, it's all this shit. And so the Republican Party, to get revenge on him, is destroying their own member, mind you, putting out videos of him acting hypersexual and insane with other males.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Do music videos count in this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, whatever evidence.
Well, then J-Lo and Iggy Azalea rubbing the shit out of each other in their premiere video is the same exact thing.
It absolutely happens all the time. Well, there are women who think it's funny to grab each other and grab each other's tits and be like, "Hey, baby," just go far with that kind of humor, and that's the thing. That's just like that's an American thing, maybe.
It's a French thing too. The French can't keep their hands off of each other.
Showing we're insulting everybody tonight. No one's safe. Shellen says, "Oh God, don't bring that freak up, Gray."
Would you not? I would say that's the same thing, though, right? Like I've definitely seen girls dancing with each other in the club, rubbing, and these are women who are identified as straight, and they're like, they're doing things.
And I've definitely seen women make those types of jokes and behavior with a sister or a friend who isn't down with it.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, they grab their tit or whatever and like, "Yo, baby, shake it," or some shit. They think it's totally all right to manhandle their friend, and like their friend, you could tell their friend is not having fun. Like, let's just go on being called a loose individual.
Loose meat.
Loose meat. You do what you want, right? Okay, I wouldn't say there are things that only men do, but I think there are things things people do when they are in groups in their own gender, and I think they do it because it's toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. I also think this applies to toxic things we teach kids that are supposed to do because of their gender.
So you're
Could you give
talking
me an
about
example?
she's public is talking about abusive behaviors, right? So again, public, I wouldn't disagree with any of that, but because of the narrative associated with the term toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, I just it's not a term I use, and two, it's something that's like, you know, proven psychologically to be like the DSM, or they write on it like anything like that. But I do agree that we teach children things that they shouldn't learn, for sure. Like we teach them hateful and hurtful things, and then they socialize it in their little packs and they do it to each other. And that's, we have to confront the behaviors. But no, they already
Yeah.
gave that a name. They gave it bad behavior.
Yeah, yeah, and I wouldn't say the whole problem is like, if we're supposed to be becoming a more like genderless society, why do we have terms like that? It
Gray
doesn't
still
help the argument.
Gray still going at it. But I saw Madison humping his naked butt in the face of another man. Again, Gray, I don't know if you've looked at hip hop videos lately, but you know.
Okay, so wait, hold on. I want to tell you about Brother Teabag.
Ooh, brother Teabag.
Yes. So in my fraternity, I didn't experience this till I went to a fraternity, but there was a white kid from a small town in Long Island, and he later on would get the pledge name. He pledged my fraternity Teabag because of the shit that he did, and
Yeah.
he always thought weird sexual shit was funny, and I was like, this is some small town shit, and he was almost like Madison Cawthorn. For instance, teabagging people fall asleep. I understand you write on them or do whatever, but he would pull out his balls and be like, hey, I'm rubbing it on his forehead, and we're like, yo, that's not cool, bro.
That's assault.
That's fucking weird. Why are you doing shit like that? And so he used to say, like, him and his friends used to play Ookie Cookie, which I thought was not real. You know Ookie Cookie.
No, I have no idea what this loose ass shit you're talking
Maybe it's
about.
only because I know this kid that he told me what it was, and I said, that is not a fucking real thing. Young men would go out and like I hope it's in private, and fucking put a cookie down and circle it, and the last guy to finish has to take a bite out of it. I'm sorry. I should have given a warning. You should have given a trigger warning.
Oh my goodness.
And he claimed that's something they did. And I was like, that's not, kids don't do that. He's like, yeah. He's like, I was like 13 when we did that. I was like, no.
Yo, can I say something, man? At what point? So, okay, this goes into the very interesting social conversation of quote unquote, that's the G word, right? I'm not talking about that disgusting behavior because that's just disgusting behavior. But at what point does this guy get celebrated because maybe he just wanted to touch this other dude's dong? Right? Like maybe it's just his truth, right?
It's possible that both these guys, like Teabag and this dude,
like,
are repressing some shit, right?
Exactly. We'll let them live in their truth.
Yeah, that's what it is. Is that we still always have shame. We always pretend like we're going to eliminate shame in the future. We're like, in the future, we'll all understand every individual snowflake in the world and their personal whatever. Not true. There's always going to be something. Society is meant to create benchmarks of like shame so that we understand how to behave.
Men are gross. Laney says,
oh, men are gross. Men are freaking gross. And I learned that in the fraternity, but I'm saying in the Haven, we did disgusting things, but not that disgusting.
Yeah, no, there's no point in the party where I'm like, yo, it's time to grab Mantis's dong.
That's no.
And then if that's your choice, that's your choice. I celebrate your truth. I won't be the one to break rules on social norms and not allow people to have their truth and judge them for it.
Okay, smart ass. Yeah, I heard about another. Look, I know I won't celebrate someone's truth. Here's what I'm saying: you can have your truth, but you're not whipping it out, and you're not grabbing someone's dick at my house, okay, bro, or in my car, or whatever.
Yo, you want to see toxic masculinity? That happens. You and the dude that let it happen, and then you get monkey stomped in the Haven, man.
No, that would be totally insane.
You touch anyone against their permission at the Haven, you're getting rat packed. You know what I'm saying?
Folks, I don't think we need to be a genderless society, but I think we need to discuss how gender can be toxic because it can. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to see their point of view on this one. I think that this might be a difference that we have,
right?
Because I don't know. Because I'm saying there's sometimes you can keep talking about the same thing, and someone has point A, and the other person has point B, and you keep going,
Right.
going. After a while, you have to, at a certain point, be like, I just don't think we're going to agree on this.
The concession. I or did agreeing to disagree. Okay, I got you.
Right.
I got you.
Lainey, Hannah says, yes, Lainey, that's why you need a woman.
I do want to talk about some of the crazy behaviors of women, because women are better at hiding up some of the evil stuff. Steve, heed my words, you will pay for ignoring me. Who am I paying, Berlin? Send your shooters. Send them.
Guys, we've got a fast moving chat, a lot of thoughts going on there. If we're missing any of them, we apologize.
And this is where I lean on my sister Bex, but Bex and I have had some private conversations, and women they do horrible, horrible things to each other as little girls and as teenagers and as grown women. And one of those things is the treatment of other women at the club, the girl bye behavior. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what it means, then you're just not a part of it. But the girl bye and the girl fights at the clubs, it's all the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just weird. But
or for instance, if anyone's on Twitter or Instagram where someone who's from the hood who likes posting other videos of black young people beating each other up, I feel like I see more women doing that than men.
Hold on for a second. Stop. Berlin, we acknowledge you. You are loved and valued, Berlin. You are seen. You everyone in the chat right now, blow kisses at Berlin. Vessels to Berlin. You are seen and you are loved. All right, so go ahead. The bastards in the black internet.
I'm just saying, like, how many times I feel like it goes across both genders that like young people are fighting.
I think that was another reason that people rejected Kevin Samuels so strongly. And again, we're not giving him a total 100. I would say 75% of his message was on point and could be useful. The other 25% I'm still hashing out, but he called bad behavior, and people do not like to hear that their behavior is bad. Chat, jump in here for a second. Do you think it's appropriate to call bad behavior? Like, do you think that we should call out people for their bad behavior? Since he stars in the building.
Since he star, what up?
Since he star says he's a middle child, he can't.
Berlin says, I'm going to end up getting blocked. No, there's nothing to love here, man. There is nothing to love up in this.
I told you, we don't block trolls. We leave them in. And you're not a troll. You're a beloved friend, Berlin.
You're not a troll in this stream.
No, I've seen him troll.
I've seen him troll before, though. He's not exempt for being a troll.
What else we want to talk about, man? I think we've beaten the dead horse.
We've beaten the crap, but actually, I'm going to end this right now. End this on the rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. If you're not into it, that's fine. You don't have to be into him. You don't have to like him. You don't even have to take a moment of silence. But I will say, may he rest in peace. And I do actually believe somewhere, some way, at some point, someone is going to build a statue to him.
Oh yes,
I think it's in the future.
That's 100% going to happen. Again, he may not have written a book, but his catalog is way more relevant than a book in certain ways. It's up on YouTube, and the views are going up, and people are resharing it. And it's, like it or not, he's a part of American history. For the small part, he's a part of this new internet age. And rest in peace, Kevin Samuels.
I'm saying he's more likely to get a statue than any other, like, say, YouTuber I follow. Well, none of them are getting shit.
YouTuber X is
maybe.
YouTuber X is definitely going to get a statue. And the Victim Olympics. Hero for sponsoring the channel. Snap. Sick burn.
So I think we're avoiding talking about the Supreme Court, right?
Oh, goodness.
We should acknowledge that it's a thing. So.
Before we get into this is going to be like a week-long conversation for me.
We don't, you know what? I don't want to make fanboy about it, but I'm just saying, like,
okay,
this has happened. We know what's going on.
Right.
Certain things were banned. People are making all sorts of crazy things. The funniest thing I gotta say, is this is a point of the left. They never know how far to go left. And before I tell you the anecdote I'm about to say.
All right.
I'll tell you an example that goes back to the last presidential election.
Okay.
And so there was in one of the debates, they asked, "You're all for a Democratic debate?" They were like, "But this was back when there's like a bunch of them. There's like 8 or 9 of them up on the podiums." Okay. And he says, "You all said that you're for universal health care. how many of you would be willing to give universal health care to illegal immigrants?
Oh, okay.
And you could tell they were like hesitant, and like one of them like raises their hand, and then most of them raise their hand. And later on, there's a newspaper the next day. It says the headline was "How Not to Be Elected President." And then every time I talk to Democrats, they're like, "Well, yeah, I want universal health care, but not for the undocumented." And they're going too hard. They don't know when to cut it out.
Right.
So Governor Hochul and Letitia James both are like, in New York State where I live. They're both, the governor, and that's the attorney general for those who are not in the know. Yeah. They were like, they heard about everything going on with the abortion. And so they've requested a ton more money so that they can prepare for the influx of people out of state to give them free abortions. And then they did a poll on what people think of this. And all these liberal New Yorkers are like, well, I don't want to pay for other states' abortions. Are you kidding me? It's already like they're rebelling against it.
Wait, I thought New York was going to be, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say it, I thought it was going to be a sanctuary state, like or what have you, like,
well, that's what. Well, the thing is that's what it is. They're gonna try to. Their idea is like they're hoping to make it part of the Constitution of the state where a woman has the right to choose. But then they're like, well, we're going to get an influx of people from other states. Let's tax New Yorkers because someone has to pay for them.
Right.
Let's tax the shit out of New Yorkers so they pay for it. And now the New Yorkers are bitching because they don't want to pay. They don't want to help other people from other states.
So their morality only extends to their wallets, is what you're saying.
Yes, it ends as soon as the wallet's starting to crack.
Listen, man. So that we're getting ready to do a show on if you guys didn't know, Mantis is a secret producer on Conversations That Matter. I usually run a lot of stuff by him before I do it. And we're getting ready to do an episode which will not have any men on it in regards to abortion, because I feel two things. The reason I'm doing this, Mantis, is one, often that's used as a device to completely discount anything a man has to say on the issue. So I don't want to bring that energy to it. Two, if it's a conversation amongst women, then that means it should be a fruitful conversation. There should be no need for ad hominem attacks or slander, and just dealing with the issues.
What it is the conversation can actually be discussed rather than someone immediately going, well, that's a dude.
Yeah.
Dude has no right to talk on this.
So with that said, go ahead, fill it in. I want to queue up a video that I sent you. I hope you watched it, and I'm going to screen share it.
Oh, please. Look, Grace says, I think y'all need to talk about the real issue. Jesse Williams' penis is all over Twitter tonight.
Who's Jesse Williams?
I don't know. Gray, if you could elaborate, we'd love that.
Give us some feedback, Gray.
Hannah says, I had a convo about abortion today. So I asked, is it okay to unplug someone from a very when it's okay to make those decisions, and it is God's will, should then even go on event? I'm a little lost in this one.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this right. Mantis made us some new overlays.
Look at how beautiful we look right now.
I don't know.
Hannah, we'll get to your thing in just a sec.
Say men can't. Gothics, why do leftists say men can't comment on abortions if the same people also claim men can have babies? Oh, shit. I think you're on to something. Men can get pregnant, therefore men are allowed to comment on abortions. Whoa! Guys, that's it. That's it right there. You're backed into a corner. And then you can also say you want to protect women, but you can't define what a woman is. What are you protecting? I should add this as a soundboard. A lot of tough choices here. It's a social construct. A woman is, I can't, okay, I think I might have to phone a friend. Hello, I have a question. The question is, what is a woman? Can you help?
All right, that's Gothic's controversial Twitch and YouTube streamer. And I threw that up there because I wanted to see what the chat thought about that, about her statements, and what the chat thinks about what Gothic's is throwing out there.
We are getting into it tonight.
No. So here's the thing, man. Like, people really like when we bring up subjects, and I want to engage the chat. So I want to see what people thought, because when I saw that, my face was exactly like yours, and I was just looking at it on my phone privately. So chat, please chime in. Tell me what you think about what Gothic's just said.
And while we think about that, oh yeah. I had a convo about abortion today. So I asked, is it okay to unplug someone from a ventilator? I realized that autocorrect
Mm,
screwed you on there. And when is it okay to make those decisions? And it's God's will. Should then it even go on a ventilator to begin with?
mm,
Something to think about.
mm.
Hmm. Should you pull the plug on someone? When should you pull the plug? Yes. That's I mean, well, at the end of the day, this is life what we're talking about. This is the complexity of life. You personally have to make those decisions.
Right, right, right,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You can't learn it in a classroom, you just have to know when. And so I remember I was actually teaching a Sunday school class and we were talking about like what it's like to be a good person. This is one of the younger kids.
hmm
And I gave examples and I said, tell me if this is uplifting God's things. And I gave them all these examples. And the examples were like pushing someone in the mud. These are ones I came up with. Pushing someone in the mud, making someone because they're making fun of someone because they're inferior, and all these things. And then there's this little girl, Sissy, raises her hand. She's like, these are so easy. Aren't there more complicated ones to know? And I
Oh,
said, yo, damn, you're so smart. And I said, well, that's the hardship. We're going to teach you the basics now, but in life, it's very complicated to know what is right and what is wrong.
right.
And that's the hardship of life that God has put us into these conundrums, right?
I think, Hannah, I think your response was appropriate about God's will and discerning God's will. I have rarely ever seen this situation play out. The thought problem is good. It should, it helps you think about things critically, and in some ways helps you enrich your faith. I did have the experience once, Hannah, where I went with my pastor to a family's house, a father who was on a ventilator and he was still conscious and still responsive, and we went there to do the last rites, like pray with the family. This was very, very heavy. And
Very intense. I can already sense it.
so here's the thing: if I'm gleaning from that, he could have been in a hospital where they could have prolonged life, right? But I believe that he chose and the family chose to be at home. So does that differentiate in any way from what you're bringing up? No. I think that he decided that if it was going to come to an end, he was going to leave it in God's hands. And he wanted to spend these moments. Well, there's more to it, but it's an interesting question. Now, if we'd have to be willing for us to go into the full breadth of what Hannah's talking about. Everyone in the chat would have to make the concession that we would have to let the conversation go where it needs to go without anyone getting mad or canceled. And I don't think we're all there yet. So
I definitely don't think we're there. You
what's
can Public says if you can carry a child, you have more to say because it's your body. It's that simple.
Oh, this is the beginning of what Public said. If you think you can get pregnant, then
I think if you can get pregnant, then of course you have more to say about abortions. Doesn't matter if you're a man or woman or otherwise.
so I like that, Public. So you're saying that everyone's included in the conversation. Public is genuinely very consistent in that way. So I appreciate
Very consistent human. I'm going to say that.
very consistent.
Except the way they drive trucks in the on in their
Not
in
a
their
good driver.
Twitch streaming.
Not going anywhere with pubs in the car. A lot of road rage and gangsterism there.
Yeah.
A lot of road rage. That's why I think it's going to be interesting to hear the conversation between the women, right? Because then it doesn't become about who's allowed to speak on the topic. Then it becomes about, whoa, what are the points being made here? And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. It possibly might be the last conversations that matter. So if it is, and the channel's not here when you guys wake up
We're all
on Monday,
going to get our apps. We're going to be kicked off every app, and I'm going to have to go back to Spoon. But what Hannah is getting on about, which is it is interesting. It's the really conundrum, but it's the medieval concept of trial by combat.
Yeah.
And the idea is that, like, if you are innocent, God will make a miracle happen in the battle that you will win. So that's the question, right? And that's why in medieval times they would have trial by combat.
I don't know what denomination you are, Hannah, and this is only relevant so I can just have some context. Are you Baptist? Are you Southern Baptist? Are you a Catholic? I know Catholicism isn't considered a denomination. I don't want to trigger Mantis right now, so we'll just keep moving forward. But I would like to know.
Well, my understanding is that Lainey is going to be on your future show, right?
Lainey is going to be on the future show.
I can see she's getting her armored up. She's getting ready for war.
Lainey and DaVinci are already get with the, as what we say in the hood, the shits. So Lady said God shouldn't be brought into the conversation at all. Religion and state are meant to be separate. Just saying. So Lady, I'm going to send you some information because I see people throw this out a lot, and there's actually a bit of a historical context about that letter that people usually leave out, and I just like for people to have a full orb view. So I'm going to send that to you privately, and I disagree categorically when it comes to that, because people now, and DaVinci brought this up, people now in hopes of protecting their the right to abortion are willing to convert to the church of Satan. Yeah. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I don't know.
However, she is flawed. They're all flawed in their thinking, but they're Satanists. So because the Supreme Court or no court has ever upheld murder or sacrifice or anything on religious principles. And so if the argument is it's murder, they will never let the satanic church do whatever they want, just on the basis of religious freedom. If I was worshiping the old Aztec gods and I was like, well, every month I need to sacrifice a virgin, they would never let me do that. And so that's the absurdity of their thing. They're Satanists, so let them be fools.
Yeah, if you don't know anything about the satanic cult, it's not just Marilyn Manson stuff. You're in for a little bit. You got to be okay with whatever happens next, because they don't have a morality system that dissuades things like forcible sex.
So
there's that.
So you good. Have fun with that. It came out wrong. It came out totally
wrong. Kathy says, I missed the first part, Kathy, so I'm going to see if I can find that. But let's go here. Or how about the legislators who want to govern women's bodies? Will they provide more help for fostering adoption systems? It's a mess already. How will society benefit from these legislation ideas? Also, how can anyone justify the rape or incest of child? Justify the rape or incest of child? Okay, that is never okay, and I was raised Catholic, so I have my own thoughts on it. So I can, in regards to the adoption system, yeah, it's a mess. Here's the thing, and so places like Ohio right now, there's a church that helped to do something called empty out the. It sounds dangerously close to empty out the. What do you call those places they keep animals? The kennels, but this community committed to making sure that they legally met the parameters for adoption and adopting as many children as possible. And then they were blocked forcibly because they were a religious group. And I find this interesting when people complain about the adoption system. All these people have went through the processes, vetted, background checks, nothing on the books, nothing pending, no child harassment or abuse in their record. And some of them were blocked for adopting children because of their religious beliefs. So let's say this. If private citizens are willing to step in and start adopting children, and not just in the cute range of 6 months to newborn to 1, and actually adopting teenagers and providing homes and still allowing the state to come in and do what they need to do legally to make sure it's a safe place, then those groups should be allowed to do that. And that's what a lot of groups are doing. And this is the thing that doesn't get represented in this conversation. So the alternative centers that are usually catty-cornered that receive no government funding, there are a bunch in California, surprisingly, where if a woman decides not to get an abortion, she goes to one of these centers and she's saying, hey, I'm leaning towards adoption. They're going to help her every step of the way towards adoption. So I only bring that up to say that the reason you don't know about these alternatives is because it doesn't fit the narrative. No one's presenting the information about these places, but the information's out there and they've been in the community. Actually, the historical Black church has been doing this work in Harlem for damn near 100 years.
Yep, that's so true.
Providing safe havens for women to bring their children. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm a person that likes to have the whole truth and bring it all to the table. Forget the narrative, forget the narrative. Let's just talk, truth here.
So on a real quick note to talk about Hannah's hypothetical, Hannah, if this is not a Christian thing, if we're really not talking about Christianity, hypothetically, in a universe, if God forbid it's funny I said God forbid. Yeah. God forbid we live in a universe, one of the universes that doesn't have a God, right? Because mathematically it's like a 50% chance or something. So we're in a universe that there is no God, and I'm not a Christian. there isn't an argument. I would not waste resources on someone in a coma, and therefore I would never put them on a ventilator. Everyone dies, and therefore we can have more resources for the people out there. And so, like, I'm pointing out, like, how, like, if I was just using my logical mind, I would just let them all die, even family members. And it's really only through being Christian that I'm like, that I have compassion for other humans. Pubs apparently said something very wise. We're going to get into it. Public friend says, Hannah, I don't really think about it. I know it's inevitable. I don't really care about when it will happen because I won't have a say since I'm not suicidal. Okay, cool. Laney says the issues is at hand of our generation is supposedly not having enough children. This isn't a matter of religion and morals. This is a decision based on controlling women as cattle for the purposes of popular. Well, here's what I'm going to say. I would say save your argument for the show.
Yeah, save that one for the show.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna do counters or devil's advocates for anybody's things right now, because we're gonna save all the magic for the show.
Steve, pregnancy crisis centers present that information, Steve, but they masquerade as help, but don't give the info on a safe and health choice to abortion. So this is always an interesting thing, because abortion clinics aren't required to present the counter information at their desk. So I always ask people when they bring up that argument, then why isn't Planned Parenthood also obligated to say, hey, by the way, down the street there is an alternative center if you choose to do something else. So if we're going to have them be, I assume that you would want the government at that point to step in to say, hey, both places are relegated, but that was categorically rejected in California. So that's why there's no progress on that. People say on one instance they don't want the government involved, and then on the other instances when we should have a fair and balanced approach to it. And remember, I'm just thinking about what's fair and balanced. If you want one to do it, then the other has to do it. Am I wrong in that?
Very intense.
not intense. It's just like when I look at the conversation as someone and I'm just sitting back and I'm looking at all the data, I can see inconsistency on both sides, and it's because it's a heated issue. But that's why I think a good moderator is. A moderator is someone that can say, hey, I'm going to remove my belief structure from this, and I'm going to point out the inconsistencies on both sides of the argument. And I just don't let my emotions get wrapped up in it, because at that point, then I'm not arguing from a place of fact. I'm arguing to be emotive, and I'm not trying to win allies. I'm just presenting the facts as they are.
Right. And going real quick back to Hannah's hypothetical about euthanasia, which is clearly a thinly veiled analogy for abortion. Hannah, so you're saying, so is death a random occurrence or is it planned? And so my argument would be, we can't eliminate God from the thing, because if there is no God or people are not listening to God, then it is a random occurrence and it doesn't fucking matter. If someone falls down a rock, why waste resources fixing them? There's more, we're overpopulated. That
it's happening again right now in the chat. So what some of you are responding to is the fact that, go look it up. California State, there's a non-abortion clinic, an alternative center that was being forced to provide information on Planned Parenthood. But when they asked, would Planned Parenthood simply place one of their flyers? Deal with what I'm saying versus
it was not allowed. It was not legally forced to do.
Yeah, they were categorically denied. You don't have to argue with me. You have to argue with that situation. So all that center asked for was like, hey, would you just, sure, we'll put it in there if that's what you're legally obligating us to do. Are you going to have the other side simply put up a flyer to let them know that we're here? And this was a medically run MD center, by the way. I just want to point that out as well. This wasn't like a bunch of Christians rubbing snake oil on each other. There were doctors, physicians that worked there. They provided the same services. 2 friends of mine that gave birth that same year went to the center, and the wife received the best medical treatment. That's all I'm saying. So if you're going to deal with what I'm saying, deal with what I'm saying, not what you think I'm saying. But I still love you. And I've seen messages from pro-life groups targeting women of color, saying that abortions have used to decrease the minority's presence. Okay, Mantis, take your headphones off, because now I fully got to go out the window on this. It's my channel, so I guess I'll go out the window. because this is something that
I thought we were gonna have a lighthearted conversation about abortion.
Well, you brought it up, bro. So
I did bring it up.
You brought it up, man. So I'm not gonna speak for the Latino community. I can't do that. I will say this as a black man, as a man attached to my community. I challenge anyone here to go look up the data. Shootings within the community, death by diabetes, death of old age, and then look up the other number that usually pops up in association with the African American community. It's one thing that we lead numbers in, and considering the history, I think it's an interesting fact. I mean, I think it's an interesting twist. There's one number that pops up, and if you're not black and you don't know this, you should go look it up, because it is interesting how high it is. That's all I'm going to say. Like, it's not a smear campaign if it's data, right? Abortion trends way higher in the African American community. So, there's that. It's just I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Maybe you didn't say it well the first time. Thanks for reiterating.
Oh no, I said it clear, public. I said it with my chest, and I said what I said. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about it is, did you hear what I said? There's a thing of cognitive dissociative. People hear what they want to hear in the argument as opposed to what the person's saying. And I've had that happen to me multiple times when we do lives where, say, for instance, I was up with another panelist and we're talking about one thing, but because of a person's experience, all they heard was what they thought we were saying versus like, hey, here's what we're actually saying. So, there's that.
At the end of the day, I think it's going to be a great show. Conversations that matter.
Yeah, this is why I was like, when you said you wanted to bring this up, I'm like, who I am, man. Like, I'm not going to back down because of any.
I should have realized that no one would back down. Right?
I'm not going to back down, especially if I'm not saying anything hateful or anything controlling. I'm just saying what the data is like. So I thought that was interesting that Kathy brought that up. And, maybe it helps if you hear it from another woman. So go listen to it from Ayanna Van Sant, a woman who's done a lot in the black community. She's an elder statesman in the black community. She's a pioneer for black women. What she has to say on the numbers of abortions in the black community.
Lainey says, I mean, 4 strong women on the panel. I'm excited. I think
it's going to be good. Let's move on.
Kathy, you didn't miss the Doctor Strange talk. We were talking about all controversial things, which took up most of the episode, which is good because we're going to end on a really nice note that's going to just soothe this all away. We're not even going to think about the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Mantis. Thank you for this.
So you guys don't know that we took a field trip, Fanboy Modeling School field trip.
It was amazing.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It was amazing.
It's absolutely.
Is this awkward? Are people not into this conversation because
Hold on for a second. Let me answer this. How did y'all get the panel participants? I picked them. I picked people who I've had conversations with, who I respect their opinions and I respect their intellect on this topic. And the reason I picked DaVinci is because I work with DaVinci. I work with DaVinci on a weekly basis. So I was like, you know what, DaVinci, it would be inappropriate to not have DaVinci on there. Then I asked D Love, because D is probably one of the most tenacious women I've met, and she's got courage. And like I like D Love's courage. I like that she says it with her chest. And I picked Lizzie Lou because Lizzie Lou did a panel of her own recently on Spoon on this topic. And Lizzie Lou, and being in the minority as a minority, I thought did a really good job articulating the points. So I was like, boom.
Look at Gray Winthrop's comment.
Doctor Strange is definitely pro-choice. I guess if you say so.
No, because he's a medical doctor who picks and chooses when people die. So he's like,
I don't think he picks and chooses. Are you saying he had a god complex?
He did in the first one. He did. He totally
no, he just needed to hold the scalpel because he didn't trust other people. They were incompetent.
Right, but remember when he finds the actual guy who went to the magical city or whatever, when he went to see him, he introduced himself. He's like, "You already know me. When I went to you for spinal surgery and you wouldn't take my case." And he's like, "Yes, because you were a lost cause." And so he will, well, you know what I'm saying? Like
that guy wasn't going to die. He was just going to be a paraplegic.
Oh man, this is heating up. It's even affecting our Doctor Strange analysis.
I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Unless, Mantis, are you trying to say paraplegics need to be put out of their misery?
Thank you for putting words in my mouth, but yes.
So what were your thoughts? You just did a non-spoiler review, pretty amazing in-depth review. I don't know how many people have seen the movie here, but who has not seen it?
Yeah, so we're talking Doctor Strange now. Public says I can't make it on Sunday. I'm going to be at church.
Pubs, not if you're driving there. Based on your driving, you probably pray before you drive to church.
Actually, what day is it on? Actually, that's a good question.
Sunday. It's going to be 10 p.m.
It's this Sunday.
This Sunday. You have your event?
Oh no. It's good. It's good. I absolutely adored this movie. Yeah, I just did a spoiler. Well, pseudo. Yeah, no, it was technically a non-spoiler, right? I don't know, but I think it's watchable for most people. That movie blew my mind, man.
I was like, if you don't grow a backbone and say what you really think, man, everyone that gave this movie a bad review is the exact type of people I was complaining about with the Kevin Samuels thing. So let me say it again with the COVID in my chest. You're morons. This was an amazing movie. This was an amazing movie. I don't understand what the gripe is. Go ahead, bro.
So geeks and gamers, they have it out for Marvel. They love to say every Marvel thing is, even if it's good, they're like, it's a disaster. This is idiotic. It's madness. They're going on like it's crazy. And they give bad reviews to whatever. You know what I'm saying? They think everything's a disaster.
Those guys over there, man.
Yeah, no, I have no love. I show no love to those dudes, Gray says you had some major spoilers in your review, but you gave a warning. Yes, that is correct. I gave a warning. I love how people on Twitter right now are arguing that they're like, is this really a PG-13 movie? Actually, this is hysterical.
That's a good thing.
Well, here's what's funny. I love it on Twitter. Someone who's like, and they're like, people are arguing that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is not really PG-13, but secretly are. And then he shows a clip from Jurassic Park. Oh, not Jurassic, but Jurassic World. And do you remember? Did you see Jurassic World?
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember
before the movie?
Do you remember the pterodactyl scene?
Yes.
The boys are walking with a woman who she's not evil. She hasn't done anything. And a pterodactyl picks her up and just flies off with her. And another pterodactyl, and they're fighting over her body. And
they drop her in
and they drop her into the ocean. And there's a giant dinosaur trying to get her. And they pick her up. And as they're trying to fly away, it comes out and eats them all.
It
was brutal. It was like screaming.
Fatality.
Fatality. And that was PG-13. So.
This movie had amazing fatalities in it, though, man. Let's go here, man. Were you upset with the cameos? A lot of people upset. Some idiots are upset with the cameos.
So no, I'm not upset with anything. I do wish that the fight went on a little longer. I wish that some of them got better hits. Like, Mr. Fantastic was done like that. I do wish he got like one or two hits, or he did some sort of stretchy thing before he died. You know what I'm saying? I'm fine with the resultant. Some people, I think, were butthurt that their favorite like cameo character died.
Right.
I'm cool with that, but I do think like they wasted Mr. Fantastic by instantly killing him.
I like the limited dialogue that he had, though. I thought that was amazing, and it was great to see. The guy that everyone wants to see is Mr. Fantastic as Mr. Fantastic. Like 100%.
I think they're trying to wait for us to see his true stretchy powers for the movie, for his own movie.
Yes,
Reveal that
yes,
kind of stuff, you know.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yo, Captain Carter, I feel it got it the worst.
No, I would say someone else got it the worst because that was like right out of the comics. Black Bolt.
Oh, he got it pretty bad. I just feel like it's an embarrassment to be killed by your own weapon. Yeah, to be cut in half by your own shield. That is, oh.
So let's rewind back, man. So the movie is fast paced. It has an amazing pace to it, I think, and it's like I think we needed that because no one wanted to get bogged down in a lot of in a lot of useless dialogue. Like we had the appropriate amount of build up from WandaVision. We knew that the multiverse shenanigans were going to be popping off after watching Loki and then seeing Spider-Man No Way Home. I think this movie, when it started running, it kept going and it still gave you story to keep you pulled in, man. Like everything, even leading up to the Illuminati. I'm really hard pressed to think of a moment where I was bored in this movie and I was like, this is stupid.
Yes, I agree. And then actually he had a really good story arc. That's when it's completed, you're like, oh wow, it was refreshing.
Right.
Because it wasn't just I think a lot of people thought it was going to be an excuse for cameo after cameo after cameo. It was very much a Doctor Strange movie where like he has some issue in the beginning and he's learning as he goes along, and at the end he's a better man. Yeah, like because some Marvel movies are not even like that.
No, they're not, bro. I gotta tell you honestly, man. I was worried about the Raimi thing when the initial stuff came out. I think Raimi was a great addition as a director to this movie, and he did bring some hard elements. But this points out the stupidity of one. Oh, I almost said her name, man. I almost said her name, but it just points out the stupidity and the antiquated takes of one YouTuber X, man. I am now starting a campaign to get YouTuber X barred from reviewing.
We have to get this person kicked off of YouTube because they were a menace to decent folk. And she just hated every single part of this movie and was just ripping it apart. And actually, I just watched her movie math. Right, and she's analyzing the box office, and while analyzing the box office, kept giving jabs to friggin' the movie.
I don't know what it is about YouTuber X, man. If you want to talk about a woman unhinged by her personal views on things, it's definitely YouTuber X, man. She's like, I think someone should call her family. Like there should be some type of medical intervention.
Lainey says I don't need to see it anymore. I'm sorry for ruining that part for you, Lainey. I'm sorry. But like, yeah, why hate on it? And then also YouTuber X does this thing where she keeps saying we. She goes, it's like CNN propaganda. She goes, well, we didn't enjoy, we didn't appreciate, I know we didn't get what we wanted out of the movie. Almost like she's trying to program people. It's propaganda. Like a simple-minded teenager is like, I didn't enjoy it, but I thought I did.
You know what I think of YouTuber X? I think YouTuber X was the kid that got picked on in school, and instead of using that to grow emotionally into a person that would never do that again, YouTuber X turned into that person that picks on people.
Yeah. She's the abuser now.
Also, I know she took huge issue with the fact that it was a man versus woman narrative that she was trying to paint with Doctor Strange versus Wanda. And, well, I'll let you weigh in on that one.
well, I will say that, yeah, there's this strong emphasis on, once again, like, I think that sometimes YouTuber X does this thing where like she does an imitation of a feminist or what a feminist is supposed to be, and therefore is just like, well, what, a man fighting a woman? This is inappropriate. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's totally fine. It's totally appropriate.
Superheroes.
It's superheroes. People, I'm just saying the woman in the story is the more powerful one, right? So,
yeah.
I just think this person, honestly, I think this person has like 80-year-old mentality in their head, and therefore they're not hip to like anything. And so, like, for instance, in movie math, they were like, yeah, it earned 451 million. That's like about $500 million in the first weekend. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she learned they got at that, but let's see what those second weekend drop off is like. And like trying to spin it as bad.
Those are your peoples right there, man.
They're not people. I don't know what those people are. Those people are animals. I don't fuck with that shit.
All in all, though, man, I really enjoyed the movie. It was worth going out and going to see, man.
I'm going back, man.
When are you going to see it again?
I don't have plans like set, but I'm definitely going to go back in the theater.
Here's the one thing, though. I know people are probably, oh no, I don't want to give. Here's what we definitely got from the movie, right? We got Doctor Strange. This was something we had talked about the week prior before we went to go see it. I wanted to see Doctor Strange and all the magic shenanigans. I wanted to see cast. I wanted to see summonings, and we got all of that, man. And it was really an ode to like old school comic books, man, where you got to see Doctor Strange be Doctor Strange, bro. And I shout out to Elizabeth Olsen, man, because man, I know you weren't a huge fan of the House of M story arc. I love it. I don't think it's a copy of the Dark Phoenix. I think it's a great way to fill a plot hole that had been building with the character Wanda in Marvel Comics for a long time and her nondescript power set. But that was the only thing missing from the movie, the epic moment from House of M. And if they would have done something like that in this movie, that would have been amazing. They tried to do it. And I don't want to give it away, but it didn't. That was the one thing. Do you know what moment I'm speaking of? You're not gonna make me say it, right?
Of course I know. Of course.
Okay, yeah. Lady says Doctor Strange is my hall pass.
Oh, so Lainey. Actually, let's talk about this. Lainey, is it Doctor Strange or is it Benedict Cumberbatch?
Ooh.
If you're at a Starbucks and you run into Benedict Cumberbatch, are you also allowed, or it's only the wizard?
Is it only the Sorcerer Supreme?
Yeah. Kathy says, I love that they also gave us the what if first. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but you should watch the animated series What If before you do it. And definitely WandaVision. Like WandaVision is so good. I love WandaVision.
You know what though? We didn't get anything with Kang, right? Not a spoiler. It's a good thing. So what are your predictions with Kang in the future? That's what I meant to ask you after the movie. What do you think is going to happen next?
So here's the thing. He was originally cast for Ant-Man Quantumania, Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, which is down the road or whatever. It's a movie or two away. And so the fact that he was in Loki was a surprise.
Right.
And so that's when we're going to see him next. And that's totally cool. Like, we don't need to see him in every damn movie, because he will be the big bad. He's just building up. And I do like the Anonymous way, like, and this is a spoiler for Loki, and it's not a big one. It's not a big one. But when he's leaving the scene, he says, if you think I'm evil, wait till you see my other variants. and then he's gone. And so you're like, and now you're kind of scared. They're like, when is his variants coming?
Right.
And I like that they're not just jamming him in. Like, when he shows up, I think it will be scary.
You don't think so? You're happy they're not redoing the Thanos approach?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of mistakes in the Thanos approach. Even though the movies they made were good, the approaching up to him, I think they made several mistakes right there.
Yeah, especially changing Thanos from a black man.
I agree. Why did they change the actor? They could have made him that black man look just as good as Thanos.
Ike was up for that role.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that would have been like,
man, that was crazy.
Oh, I got free tickets, man. That would have been fucking awesome.
Lady says Doctor Strange. Okay, so it's not Benedict Cumberbatch. Public says Benedict Cumberbatch is very scary looking. Lainey says Doctor Strange, on the other hand, can wizard me out of that bed. Kathy says, and the ending of Eternals, what's coming next? Every time I watch a good Marvel movie, it makes me hate Eternals more.
I really don't understand. I mean, I understand it. I don't understand where the loathing is. I watched it again. I was like, is it that bad? And I watched it. I was like, this is not the worst. I'm like, Thor Dark World is still worse than this movie. I watched it again. I enjoyed it even more the second time.
No.
You just hate that director. That's what this is all about.
I got no problem. I don't think she's a good director, but I think they missed the mark, and I think like if you were to compare it to like a lot of these movies, like you're like, what is going on?
I got exactly what I expected from the characters, the Eternals. When they announced it, I was just like, I don't know. You're talking about that one group of people that's always been really hard to market in Marvel, like, but Kevin Feige is an artiste.
Yo, so let me ask you: do you think that like obviously Fan 4 is coming? They've already have it planned, and they're going to direct. They're looking for a director right now. Do you think that like Black Bolt will show up in Marvel Cosmic?
Yes.
Now that we've seen proper him.
Yes, I think so. The real question is, how does this all tie into Shang-Chi's rings?
I have no idea where they're going with that. They totally changed it all around.
It's amazing. We're headed for beautiful, beautiful unknown territory. Folks, stop doing fan fiction. Stop making theories. You're just going to ruin the movie for yourself. Just go enjoy the movie.
I'm going to fanfic and still enjoy myself, you know?
We're at the 159 mark.
Yeah. Grace says the black dude who played Thanos the first time is fine.
Ooh. I'll take your word for it. I've never seen what the brother looks like. Is he a good looking dude? Let me see if I can find him real quick.
I suppose. Lainey says, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was underwhelming.
That's a good way to describe it. And my first experience with a woman.
So public, I write real fiction, but in terms of like these movies, these superhero movies, I do make like predictions of what I think is going to happen. And like, that's what he's talking about by fan fiction. That I'm like, I think this and this is going to happen. I don't get upset if it doesn't happen. If it happens significantly less cool than I wrote it, then yeah, then it does. You know. Oh, he's trying to skip out on the abortion conference.
No, trust me, I'm trying to save you from that conversation. But make sure you tune in to hear those four women talk about it. Hosted by Gray Winthrop this Sunday. Conversations That Matter. It's going to be live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Should be an interesting conversation to say the least.
Public said, okay, I thought you were writing a different type of fan fiction. Ooh. They mean the sexy kind. Rub your nipples, everybody. Sorry. This is the Fanboy Modeling School signing off for another amazing episode. I had a great time. Steve, the curmudgeon, man. This is what's up. I love it when we do these shows.
Yo, great. Yes, you read your Discord. That's what you agreed to. Read your Discord message, the direct one I sent to you.
Okay. Leave it for off stream.
Hey, Pubs, you're welcome to never come back. Oh.